3.5 years, 1,200 times arriving on time, 64 unpaid overtime nights, one request for a raise worth $2, and one rehearsed shake of the head. That's all it took for me to walk away. And for them to crumble. They thought they were saving $16 a day. Instead, they lost everything I'd been holding together with my bare hands. This is how a company learns the true cost of disrespect. My name is Melissa Grant, and I've spent the last 3.5 years becoming invisible at Halberd Solutions. Not the kind of invisible where people bump into you in hallways, the kind where your work is everywhere. But your name is nowhere. Every morning at 6:47 a.m., I pull into the same parking spot at our squat concrete building on the outskirts of Millstone, Vermont. The coffee's already lukewarm in my travel mug because I made it at 5:30, right after feeding my neighbor's cat, Mrs. Davidson pays me $20 a week for that, which covers exactly one tank of gas for my aging Honda. Inside Halberd, the fluorescent lights flicker in a pattern I've memorized. Third row, second light, every 17 seconds. I count it sometimes when I'm waiting for the ancient logistics software to load. As the logistics coordinator for the Northeast region, I manage the delicate dance of getting products from our warehouses to stores across 6 states. It's like playing Tetris with semi-trucks, weather delays, and driver shortages. The office smells like burnt coffee and that particular brand of desperation that comes from a company trying to compete with giants while paying like a nonprofit. There are 32 of us crammed into an open floor plan designed for 20. The executives, of course, have actual offices with doors that close and windows that open. I learned our proprietary software by staying late and teaching myself because training was temporarily suspended due to budget constraints. That was 2 years ago. I've created Excel macros that save the department 12 hours a week. I've memorized every driver's preferred routes, every client's receiving hours, every warehouse manager's coffee order. When Tom from shipping had his heart attack, I covered his workload for 3 weeks without anyone asking. Just did it. My desk sits between Marcus, who watches YouTube videos at half volume all day, and Sarah, who got promoted to senior coordinator 6 months after starting. She makes $1.75 more per hour than me. I know because she left her offer letter on the printer. She has a bachelor's in marketing. I have 7 years of logistics experience and an associate's degree I paid for myself. The thing about being good at your job in a place like Halberd is that it becomes a trap. The better you are, the more they lean on you. The more they lean, the more you become load-bearing. And load-bearing walls? They're the last ones anyone thinks to renovate. Last week, I overheard our new intern, fresh out of UVM, still wearing college sweatshirts, talking about his hourly rate, $1 more than mine, for filing papers and asking me how to use the copier. That's when something shifted. Not broke, I'm too careful for breaking, but shifted, like tectonic plates grinding against each other, storing up energy for something bigger. I submitted my raise request on a Tuesday, $2 an hour. I'd printed out market rates, highlighted my achievements, even included a letter from our biggest client praising my work. I'd practiced my speech in the mirror, wore my best blazer, the one from Goodwill that almost looks expensive if you don't look too close. $2, $16 a day, $80 a week. The price of keeping someone who knows where all the bodies are buried, who keeps the gears turning, who shows up through snowstorms and stomach bugs and the soul-crushing sameness of it all. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, you need to understand what it means to be invisible in a place that can't function without you. It means you're the ghost in the machine. And ghosts? Well, they have their own ways of haunting. The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Thursday. I'd chosen the time carefully, after the lunch rush when everyone's blood sugar was stable, before the 3 p.m. slump when patience wore thin. I'd even brought homemade cookies for the break room that morning, the good ones with sea salt. Janet from HR sat across from me, her smile as thin as gas station coffee. My direct manager, Bill, slouched beside her, scrolling through his phone under the table. I could see the reflection in his glasses, ESPN, not my carefully prepared documentation. So, Melissa, Janet began, shuffling papers she hadn't read. You're requesting a compensation adjustment. Yes, $2 per hour. I slid my folder across the table. Based on market research, my current responsibilities exceed the original job description by approximately 40%. I've also included performance metrics showing. We appreciate your enthusiasm, Bill interrupted, finally looking up, and your proactiveness. But the current fiscal year has been challenging. I kept my voice steady. The email blast last week mentioned record profits for Q3. Janet's smile flickered. Regional profits don't always translate to departmental budgets. I understand. However, new hires are being brought in at rates exceeding mine despite having less experience and fewer responsibilities. We can't discuss other employees' compensation, Janet said, her tone suggesting I'd committed some grave sin by mentioning reality. Bill leaned back, chair creaking. Look, Melissa, you're doing great work. Really great. That's why we'd hate to see you get discouraged over something as temporary as budget constraints. Temporary. Like the broken printer that's been temporarily out of order for 8 months. When might the budget constraints be resolved? I asked. They exchanged a look I'd seen before, the one that said they'd already decided before I walked in. We'll definitely revisit this during your annual review, Janet offered. My annual review was 9 months away. But that's... And we want you to know how valued you are, Bill added, warming to his theme. You're the backbone of this department. Irreplaceable, really. Irreplaceable, but apparently not worth $2 more. Janet pulled out a different paper. What we can offer is this certificate of appreciation and a premium parking spot for the next quarter. I stared at the certificate. Comic Sans font. My name was misspelled. The premium spots are closer to the building, Bill added helpfully. Saves you maybe 30 seconds of walking. The fluorescent light above us flickered. Third row, second light, 17 seconds. I counted them all. I see, I said finally. Great. I knew you'd understand. Bill was already standing. Team players always do. I gathered my folder, the weight of those unread pages suddenly meaningless. At the door, I turned back. Just to clarify, the company values my irreplaceable contributions but can't justify a $2 raise. Janet's smile was answer enough. That night, I sat in my kitchen doing math. Not the complex logistics calculations I did all day, but simple arithmetic. The intern made more than me. Sarah made more than me. The new coordinator position they'd posted online, starting salary $3 higher than mine. My phone buzzed. Text from work. Emergency shipment issue. Can you log in remotely? I stared at it for a long moment. Then I opened my laptop and fixed their emergency, like always. But while I worked, I noticed something I'd been too loyal to see before. Every process, every system, every shortcut and solution, they all ran through me. I wasn't just a cog in the machine, I was the machine. My mother called while I was documenting the fix. How did the meeting go, honey? They said no. Silence. Then, after everything you do for them, they offered me a certificate and a closer parking spot. Melissa Grant, you're worth more than that. I know, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. I think it's time they learned exactly how much. That night, I dreamed of flickering lights and empty desks, of phones ringing with no one to answer them, of trucks sitting idle in depots while managers scrambled to remember passwords I'd never written down. I woke up with a plan. The next morning, I arrived at 6:47 a.m. like always, parked in my regular spot, not the premium one. Made my rounds. Fixed the overnight disasters. Smiled at all the right people. But something had fundamentally changed in the 27 steps from the parking lot to my desk. I was done being invisible while being essential. For 3 days, I maintained the illusion of normalcy. I answered emails, routed shipments, solved problems, but I also started seeing things differently. Like how Marcus always dumped his difficult accounts on my desk with "You're so much better at these." Or how Bill forwarded me questions from upper management with, "Can you handle this? Thanks. Never please, never a follow-up." On day 4, Sarah asked me to show her how to process international orders. Again. "I've shown you 3 times," I said, still typing. "I know. But you explain it so well. And you're faster at it anyway." "That's true," I agreed. "I am faster." And I turned back to my screen without another word. She stood there for a full minute before walking away, confusion written across her face. That's the thing about being everyone's solution. They don't know what to do when you stop solving. That evening, I called my best friend Anna, who'd escaped corporate hell to run her own consulting firm. "They really said no to $2, she asked, with a straight face. "What are you going to do?" I stared at my laptop screen, at the 17 processes I'd optimized, the 4 databases I'd integrated, the countless hours of other people's work I'd absorbed without complaint or compensation. "I'm going to teach them about value," I said. "The expensive way." "Melissa." Her voice carried a warning. "I'm not going to sabotage anything," I assured her. "I'm just going to stop being the safety net." The shift was subtle at first. When Tom emailed asking for help with a routing issue, I responded with, "I'm sure you can figure it out. The manual is in the shared drive." When overnight errors occurred, I fixed only what was assigned to me, leaving the rest for their rightful owners. But the real change was in what I started documenting. Every process I'd created, every shortcut I'd developed, every password and contact and tribal knowledge detail. I began compiling it all. Not for them, for me. One afternoon, Bill stopped by my desk. "Hey, the Hartman account is having issues. Can you?" "That's Roger's account," I said without looking up. "Yeah, but you know how to handle their specific requirements." "So does Roger. He's been here 2 years." Bill shifted uncomfortably. "Come on, Melissa. Don't be like this." I finally looked at him. "Like what?" "Difficult." The word hung between us like a challenge. Difficult. 3.5 years of 60-hour weeks, of skipped lunches, of catching mistakes that would have cost thousands. And the first time I maintained boundaries, I was difficult. "I'm doing my assigned work, Bill. All of it. On time. Accurately." I smiled the same thin smile Janet had given me. "Isn't that what you pay me for?" He left without another word. That night, I updated my resume for the first time in 3 years. Not because I was desperate to leave, desperation makes you sloppy. But because I finally understood something crucial. They didn't value me at my current rate, which meant somewhere else would. My phone had 14 unread work messages, problems that weren't mine to solve. Questions from people who'd never bothered to learn the answers. Requests disguised as emergencies. I turned off notifications and opened LinkedIn instead. A message was waiting from David Morrison, VP of Operations at Pinnacle Logistics. We'd met at a conference 2 years ago. He tried to recruit me then, but I'd been too loyal to consider it. "Still interested in that conversation?" I typed. His response came within minutes. "Absolutely. When can we talk?" I glanced at my work phone, now silent and dark, then at my personal laptop, where I'd been building something they didn't even know existed, a complete blueprint of their entire logistics operation, with every weakness, every dependency, every single point of failure that I'd been holding together. "How about tomorrow?" I replied. "I have a feeling my schedule is about to open up." Outside my apartment window, the lights of Millstone twinkled like promises. Somewhere in that grid, Halberd Solutions hummed along, oblivious to the load-bearing wall that had just developed a crack. They thought they were saving $2 an hour. They had no idea what it was about to cost them. The conversation with David Morrison changed everything. Pinnacle Logistics offered me a management position with a salary that made those $2 look like pocket change, but I didn't accept immediately. First, I had architecture to complete. Over the next 3 weeks, I became the most efficient employee Halberd had ever seen. Efficient at creating my own replacement system, While everyone else scrambled with their suddenly unassisted workloads, I quietly built an empire of documentation every morning. I'd arrive at 6:47 and spend an hour creating detailed process guides, not for Halberd, for the consultancy firm I'd been in contact with. They specialized in logistics optimization and were very interested in my insights about general industry practices. Everything I shared was public knowledge, of course. The fact that it perfectly mirrored Halberd's operations was purely coincidental. I also started noticing things I'd previously fixed without thought. The warehouse management system had a glitch that duplicated orders if you didn't clear the cache every 48 hours. I'd been doing it religiously. Now I documented it in my personal files and let nature take its course. Sarah approached me during lunch, stress evident in her voice. "Melissa, the Morrison Foods shipment is showing as delivered, but they're saying they never received it." "Check the driver logs," I said, taking a bite of my sandwich. I did. They don't match the system. I continued eating. "Can you look at it, please? It's a $20,000 order." "I'm on lunch." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You've never taken lunch before." "I'm trying to be better about work-life balance." The Morrison Foods issue took them 6 hours to resolve. It would have taken me 15 minutes. I knew because I'd fixed the same problem 17 times before. Meanwhile, I was building relationships with our vendors and drivers, not for Halberd, but for myself. Coffee with Joe, who ran the Newark route, lunch with Patricia from Consolidated Shipping, casual conversations that always ended with, "If you ever need anything, here's my personal number." The beauty of being invisible for so long was that nobody noticed when I started becoming selectively visible. 2 weeks into my plan, the first major crack appeared. The Syracuse distribution center called in a panic. Their entire next-day delivery schedule had vanished from the system. Bill burst out of his office. "Melissa, Syracuse's—" "Roger handles Syracuse on Wednesdays," I reminded him, fingers never pausing on my keyboard. "Roger doesn't know how to restore the backup schedules." I looked up slowly. "Then maybe Roger should learn. This is $100,000 in potential delays. Sounds serious. Management should probably handle it." His face went through several shades of red. "I'm ordering you to fix this." "Of course," I smiled. "Please put that order in writing, including authorization for the overtime it'll require." He stormed back to his office. The Syracuse issue took them until 9 p.m. to fix, with 3 managers, 2 IT specialists, and an emergency call to the software vendor. I could have restored it in 12 minutes using the backup protocol I'd created, but never officially documented. That night, I finalized my agreement with Pinnacle. Start date in 3 weeks. I also sent a proposal to 3 of Halberd's biggest clients, offering consulting services to optimize their supply chain interfaces. Corporate speak for, "I can be your direct line instead of going through Halberd's chaos." The next morning, Janet from HR was waiting at my desk. "We've noticed some changes in your performance," she began. "Oh?" I pulled up my metrics. "I've completed 100% of my assigned tasks on time, 0 errors, full compliance with all company policies. It's more about attitude, team cooperation." "I see. Is there a specific policy about attitude I've violated?" She faltered. "Bill says you're not helping with critical issues." "Yo, I'm handling all issues assigned to me. Is there a job description update I missed that includes other people's responsibilities?" "You know that's not how we operate here. We're a family." I almost laughed. "Families don't pay each other. This is a business. I do the work you pay me for. Neither more nor less." She left looking unsettled. Good. That afternoon, I submitted my notice to take my accumulated vacation days, 2 weeks I'd never used because I'd been too essential to leave. They couldn't deny it. It was in the employee handbook. "But the quarterly shipping review is in 2 weeks," Bill protested. "I'm sure the team can handle it," I said. "After all, I'm just one person." The panic in his eyes was almost worth 3.5 years of undervaluation. My phone buzzed with a text from David at Pinnacle. "Looking forward to having you aboard." Our clients are excited about your innovative approaches. 3 of those clients were companies I'd personally kept happy for Halberd. They didn't know they were about to get a new point of contact. They just knew their service was about to get much, much better. I looked around the office, at the flickering lights, the overworked faces, the management that couldn't see value until it was gone. They'd saved $2 an hour. The real cost was about to come due. Friday, 4:45 p.m. The office was winding down. People making weekend plans, complaining about traffic. I'd timed it perfectly. HR would process my resignation Monday morning, but the email would hit inboxes in 17 minutes. I'd written it that morning, every word chosen with surgical precision. Effective immediately. I am resigning from my position at Halberd Solutions. My accumulated vacation days will serve as my notice period. Thank you for 3.5 years of educational experiences. No explanations, no bridges carefully maintained. Just facts. At 4:58 p.m., I attached one final document to the email, a single page listing every critical process I managed, with no instructions on how to do them. Just a list. 47 items that would start failing Monday morning. My desk was already empty. I'd been removing personal items for weeks, so gradually that no one noticed. The only thing left was a sticky note on my monitor. Ask about the budget for someone like me. I hit send at 5:02 p.m. and walked out. The first call came at 7:23 p.m. Bill, I didn't answer. The fifth call came at 8:45 p.m. Janet from HR, I didn't answer. By Saturday afternoon, I had 43 missed calls and 97 unread texts. I spent the day at a spa, using a gift certificate I'd bought myself with the overtime pay they'd finally been forced to calculate correctly. Monday morning, 6:47 a.m. I woke naturally, made fresh coffee, and checked my personal email. 14 inquiries from Halberd vendors asking if I was still their contact. I responded to each one. I've moved to Pinnacle Logistics. I'd be happy to continue supporting your needs through our premium service channels. 7 said yes immediately. My phone rang. Unknown number. But I recognized the conference room extension. Melissa? Bill's voice was strained. We need you to come in, just for today. Paid consulting rates. My consulting rate is $200 an hour, 4-hour minimum. Silence. That's extortion. No, I said calmly. That's market rate for emergency logistics consulting. Would you like me to send you my competitors' rates for comparison? He hung up. By Tuesday, the Syracuse distribution center had shut down completely. The backup system I'd created required passwords I'd never shared and procedures I'd never documented. The 48-hour cache clearing? Nobody knew about it. The system had duplicated every order since Friday. Wednesday brought news through my network. Hartman Foods had pulled their contract after 3 botched deliveries. Morrison Foods was considering the same. The quarterly shipping review that Bill was so worried about postponed indefinitely after they realized no one knew how to generate the reports. Roger, who'd been there 2 years but never learned the systems, quit after being screamed at for the 5th time. Sarah transferred to a different department rather than deal with the chaos. Thursday's LinkedIn update made me smile. Halberd Solutions is urgently seeking a senior logistics coordinator. Competitive salary, comprehensive benefits, immediate start date. The listed salary range? $5 more per hour than they'd paid me. Friday afternoon. I was settling into my new office at Pinnacle when my personal phone rang. A number I didn't recognize, but the area code was familiar. Ms. Grant, this is Thomas Hartley, CEO of Halberd Solutions. The CEO, they'd sent the CEO. Mr. Hartley, I understand there's been some miscommunication about your value to our organization. There was no miscommunication. Your communication was crystal clear. We'd like to offer you your position back, with a substantial raise. Of course. How substantial? $8 per hour above your previous rate, plus a signing bonus. I did quick math. $6 more than they'd refused to give me 5 weeks ago. No thank you. Ms. Grant, please. The company is struggling without your expertise. I'm aware. This is really quite unprofessional. What's unprofessional? I interrupted. Is discovering that new hires and interns make more than someone holding your entire logistics network together. What's unprofessional is being told you're irreplaceable, but not worth $2 more an hour. That was a mistake. Yes, I agreed. It was. I hung up. 3 months later, I heard through the network that Halberd had hired a team of 3 people to do what I'd done alone. They were paying consulting firms to recreate the systems I'd built. 2 senior managers had been let go. The company stock had dropped 12% after missing multiple quarterly targets. All to save $16 a day. My assistant knocked and entered my office. Yes, I had an assistant now. Your 3 p.m. is here. The Harrison Group wants to discuss switching their logistics provider. I smiled. Harrison Group had been one of Halberd's largest remaining clients. Send them in. As I stood to greet them, I caught my reflection in the window. Professional blazer that didn't come from goodwill. Confident posture of someone who knew their worth. Visible, valued, and very well compensated. They'd thought I was just another replaceable cog, worth haggling over for $2. They'd learned the hard way. When you refuse to pay for value, you pay for the consequences. 6 months into my role at Pinnacle, I sat in my corner office reviewing the latest acquisition proposal. The Harrison Group had officially become our client, along with 4 other former Halberd accounts. My assistant knocked and entered with afternoon coffee. Real coffee, not break room swill. Your 4 p.m. canceled, she said. Would you like me to move your 5:30 up? No, I'll use the time to review the Mitchell projections. I glanced at my phone. Another unknown Vermont number. They'd stopped calling months ago, but occasionally one would slip through. Delete. That evening, I met Anna for drinks at a bistro downtown, the kind of place where water came with lemon slices without asking. You look good, she said. Success suits you. It's amazing what being valued does for your complexion. She laughed, then grew serious. Any regrets? I thought about it. Really thought about it. About the co-workers who'd struggled in my absence, who weren't responsible for management's choices. About the drivers who'd had routes disrupted. The warehouse workers dealing with system failures. I documented everything, I said finally. Left them a complete list of what needed attention. It's not my fault they never bothered to learn while I was there. That's not what I asked. I traced the rim of my glass. Last week, I heard they finally stabilized, hired competent people, rebuilt the systems. It only took 6 months and probably $300,000 in losses and consulting fees. Melissa. No, I said firmly. No regrets. I gave them 3.5 years of excellence at bargain prices. They made their choice. My phone buzzed. Email from David. Board approved your expansion proposal. Congratulations. Director Grant. Director. I screenshotted to save, then noticed another email below it. The sender made me pause. Bill Thompson. Subject line. You were right. I almost deleted it unread. Almost. But curiosity won. Melissa, I know I have no right to contact you, but I needed you to know you were right about everything. I'm leaving Halberd next week. The last 6 months taught me something I should have known years ago. When someone shows you their worth every single day, you don't haggle over it, you invest in it. I'm sorry. We should have given you the $2. We should have given you 10. Good luck at Pinnacle. They're lucky to have you. Bill. I read it twice, then archived it without responding. Some bridges, once burned, weren't meant for rebuilding. But the acknowledgement, late as it was, settled something in me I hadn't realized was still unsettled. 3 days later, an industry newsletter landed in my inbox, buried on page 3. Halberd Solutions reports 3rd consecutive quarter of losses, considers restructuring. Below that, a smaller item. Pinnacle Logistics announces record growth. Attributes success to strategic hires and client acquisitions. I forwarded it to my mom with a single line. Remember when they offered me a premium parking spot? Her response came quickly. I'm so proud of you, honey. Dad would be too. That evening, I worked late, not because I had to, but because I was building something. A new supply chain model that would revolutionize how we handled multi-state distributions. My name would be on the patent application. As I worked, I thought about invisible women in offices everywhere, the ones holding everything together with competence and coffee, watching less qualified people pass them by. The ones told their family when it's time to work late, but employees when it's time for raises. My computer pinged. A LinkedIn message from a logistics coordinator in Ohio. I've been following your career since the Halberd exodus. I just asked for a raise and referenced your story. They said yes, thank you. I smiled and typed back, know your worth? Then add tax. Outside my window, Pinnacle's logo glowed against the evening sky. 20 floors down, the city hummed with the energy of 1,000 other stories. Other battles, other victories waiting to be claimed. They'd refused me $2 an hour to save money. Instead, they'd created a competitor who took their clients, their reputation, and their peace of mind. Some lessons come cheap, others cost everything. As I packed up for the night, my phone buzzed one last time, another Vermont number. This time, I recognized it, Tom from shipping, who'd had the heart attack I'd covered for. Melissa? It's Tom. I know it's late, but I wanted you to know. I'm starting my own trucking company. Remembered what you said once about knowing your worth? Figured it was time. You looking for shipping partners? I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. Send me a proposal, Tom. Let's talk about rates. Because that's what happens when you learn your worth, you help others find theirs too. 1 year later, I stood before a conference room filled with logistics professionals. The annual Supply Chain Excellence Summit had invited me to speak about building resilient systems through human capital investment. Corporate speak for, pay your people what they're worth, or watch your business crumble. The true cost of undervaluing talent, I began, clicking to my first slide, isn't measured in dollars saved. It's measured in knowledge lost, systems failed, and opportunities destroyed. In the audience, I spotted familiar faces. Former Halberd employees who'd found better positions. Vendors who'd followed me to Pinnacle. Even Janet from HR, taking notes in the third row. She'd left Halberd 8 months ago. I didn't tell them about the nights I'd spent building documentation they'd never read. I didn't mention the 47 processes that had failed in my absence. I didn't need to. The business journals had covered Halberd's spectacular implosion thoroughly enough. Instead, I talked about value. Real value. The kind that shows up at 6:47 a.m. every day. The kind that fixes problems before they become disasters. The kind that builds empires in cubicles and holds them together with determination and expertise. Every organization has these people, I said. They're your safety nets, your problem solvers, your institutional memory. And every day, you make a choice. Invest in them or lose them. There is no middle ground. After my presentation, a young woman approached me. She looked tired, worn in that particular way of someone giving more than they're receiving. I'm in the same situation, she said quietly. 3 years, no raise, watching new hires make more. But I'm scared to leave. What if I'm not actually worth more? I recognized the doubt in her eyes, the same doubt that had kept me in that parking spot at 6:47 a.m. for too long. You're not worth more because you leave, I told her. You leave because you're worth more. There's a difference. She nodded, something shifting in her expression. They keep saying they can't afford to give raises. They can't afford not to. They just don't know it yet. That evening, I returned to my office to find a package on my desk. No return address. But I recognized the handwriting. Inside was a simple frame containing a $2 bill and a note. Melissa, saw your summit presentation online. This has been on my desk for a year. A reminder of the most expensive $2 I never spent. Halberd closed last month. Bill. I hung it on my wall between my degree and my industry awards. A monument to knowing your worth. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Saw an article about your presentation. Still telling everyone my daughter runs logistics for half the Northeast. Love you. I smiled, thinking about the journey from that fluorescent lit cubicle to here. The morning I decided that being essential and being valued weren't negotiable separately. The moment I'd chosen to stop being the ghost in their machine. They say success is the best revenge. They're wrong. Success is when revenge becomes irrelevant, when you're too busy building something better to care about what collapsed behind you, when your worth is so evident that explaining it becomes unnecessary. I turned off my office light and headed home. No more 6:47 a.m. arrivals. No more 64 unpaid overtime nights. No more being invisible while being irreplaceable. These days, I arrive at 8:30 a.m., I leave at 5 p.m., I take real vacations. And when my team members ask for raises, I look at their contributions, their dedication, their value, and I say yes. Because I learned something important in that conference room with Janet and Bill, counting the 17-second flickers of a dying fluorescent bulb. The cost of $2 isn't $2. It's everything you lose when someone who knows their worth finally decides to take it elsewhere. I didn't leave Halberd for the money. I left because finally, inevitably, I understood a simple truth. I was never asking for too much. They were always offering too little. The $2 bill hangs on my wall still. A reminder that some people will always know the price of everything and the value of nothing. But that's their loss to count. I have an empire to build. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts and experiences. Remember, knowing your worth isn't arrogance, it's accuracy. Until next time, value yourself first. The right people always will too.